A year ago, I was drowning in $13,000 worth of credit card debt. I felt so stuck, stressed, and just completely overwhelmed with my life. But in just 9 months, I paid every dollar off, and y'all, the relief that I feel now is just unmatched. Today, I'm going to share with you guys exactly what I did to pay off my debt as quickly as I did. We're going to talk about everything from budgeting, cutting costs, and the biggest tip that changed my life drastically when it came to my credit card debt. So I want to share a little backstory with you guys. In 2023, I decided to move into a really expensive apartment in downtown. And although I don't regret it, that definitely is one of the worst financial decisions I've ever made in my life because I was paying like $2,000 a month for my rent on top of credit card debt, interest, my car payment, my student loans. And as I'm sure you guys can relate, when your debt is just accumulating and accumulating, it's so easy to just go and open up another credit card so you can pay one thing off. But then it's almost like you're not even paying anything off. Like you're still continuing to accumulate that debt. So 2023 was just a really difficult year for me leading into 2024. And honestly, that's when I hit my rock bottom when it came to my finances because I was just check to check and I was just super unhappy, miserable, feeling like I just dug myself in such a deep financial hole. So it hit me one day and I was just like, we got to change. We have to change our situation. There's more to life than waking up every day being this stressed and this worried about money. So if that's you, I completely understand what that feeling feels like. I completely understand how scary it is to feel like you're literally on survival mode and to have anxiety over like, oh my God, what if something happens? Like I don't have the money in my savings to cover, even if I have to replace my tires. I know that feeling. So just know there is light at the end of the tunnel, and the tips that I'm going to share with you guys today have just drastically changed my life in such a short amount of time. So let's get into it. I have 6 tips for you guys. Number 1 is you have to know where your money is going. So if that means that you check your bank account every day, start getting in the habit of checking it every day. Or maybe you check it every single week. But you need to have an understanding of what do you even spend your money on. For the longest time, I had no clue where my money was going. There were so many times where in my mind, I thought I had more money than I did. And then I would look at my account and genuinely be so confused. Like, where is my money going? The thing is, you can't be fearful of your money and you can't be fearful of where your money is going. You've got to be able to cross that bridge and face that fear and literally look at your bank statements in the eye of like, what am I spending this money on? So before you can start making real changes in your finances, it really does help to audit what you do with your money. So spend the next 4 weeks reviewing your bank statements. Check for any subscriptions that you have. Look at some of those impulse purchases that you're making, maybe where you're overspending on groceries. And I know there are tools out there that'll do this for you. I actually did everything manually. I don't think there's anything wrong if you use like a tool or an app that does it for you, but I think the biggest point in this is taking your power back when it comes to your finances. And so if you have an app do it for you, it's almost taking the purpose away from this. I think down the line, when you feel really good about your budget and your credit card's being paid off, if you want to use a tool, go ahead. But I would actually recommend in the beginning, you going in yourself into your bank accounts, into your statements and seeing what are you spending your money on. I don't want you guys to judge yourself. I don't want you to feel bad about what you're spending money on. This is just to be observant on where it's going. When I did this, it really opened my eyes because I was like, oh my God, first of all, there's like 4 different subscriptions I had at the time that I didn't even use. And once I canceled those subscriptions, that was like $75 back in my pocket. And in my mind, I was like, cool, $75 more I can put towards my credit card payments because as I'm sure you guys know, the more you put towards your monthly credit card payment, the quicker you pay it off. If you're just doing that minimum monthly payment, it's never going to get paid off. So cutting out those subscriptions you don't need is an easy way to get some of your money back to then put more onto your credit card payments. The second thing you're going to do is just analyze your spending habits and looking at, okay, this is how much I spent this month and comparing it to your actual income. Because if you're spending $4,000 a month, but you're only making $3,800 a month, that's a worse position to be in, right? Because there's a deficit now in your money. I have been there. That was me literally last year when I was struggling to just catch my breath, where my bank account was, oh my God, you guys, regularly my bank account was like -100, -200. And then on my payday, it would go back to like a positive balance. But then after all my payments at the end of the month all over again, I was at -200. So I know how stressful and anxiety inducing that can be. But this part is just about the awareness. Are you spending more than you make? Yes or no? That's all that step 2 is. Step 3 is where I think it starts to get really fun because this is where you cut your expenses. And it helps to have completed step 1 first because that's where you're actually looking at where your money's going. So if there are subscriptions you don't use, if there are things maybe that you can even bundle, like I think Disney Plus does a bundle with Netflix. I could be wrong, I don't know. But seeing what things can you bundle, maybe you can share a subscription with somebody, but what can you cut that you don't need? And maybe these aren't even subscriptions. These can be things like your grocery bill, for example. For me, I would spend like $100 a week on my groceries because it's just me when I was living in my apartment. And I never finished all the food that I bought. So I had to ask myself, like, okay, what if I do more like 75 a week? What if I just buy a little bit less? Is that going to help me reduce my food waste and save a little bit? And it did. That gave me back like $100 a month. So then I started noticing, okay, my bank account isn't no longer in the negatives at the end of the month because I'm starting to catch up between that and the subscriptions that I cut out. And it's like such a good feeling to start to see these things add up. I also personally canceled the parking I was paying for when I was living in downtown because there was street parking. So it's just little things like that that really do make a difference. So don't downplay how effective even $10 can be. If there's 5 different subscriptions that are all $10 that you remove because you don't need them, you're gaining $50 a month. So it's just about removing what you don't need. Other things you might cut out just temporarily might be going out on the weekends. If you're someone who goes out Saturdays and Sundays, maybe you compromise one of those days and stay at home. And then that puts money back in your pocket. So you specifically know your own life. You just have to assess your finances, maybe your subscriptions, etc., but also what things are you willing to compromise? Only you know your life and what feels good for you to cut. And the thing that helped me the most was just reminding myself it's not forever. So even if I'm compromising going out on the weekends, it's okay. It's just for a little bit of time. It's just for me to be able to pay these things off quicker. And that really helped me. Before we move on to the next step, let us know down in the comments what's one thing that you can cut out of your life that's going to help you financially. We can all cut something out of our lives, so I challenge you to think of that one thing that you don't really need in your life right now. Okay, step number 4, I saved it for this part of the video because it is a little bit challenging, but this is where you face your debt, okay? If someone were to ask you right now, what is your credit card debt balance? Would you honestly be able to say what that number is? And if you don't know it, that's okay, but this is where you take your power back. You have to know what that number is. That can't just be something that's in the back of your mind that you're not really addressing, that you're forgetting about, because that's how you stay in debt. If you don't pay attention to that credit card debt, I swear you guys, it just doesn't go away. Even if you're paying them monthly bills, it just feels like it never goes away, right? I don't want y'all to be obsessed with it, but when you look at it regularly, whether it's every other week or once a month, you're taking accountability back and ownership because you're aware of what you owe. So don't be afraid to look at that number. I had a hard time for the longest time, even looking at my bank account, looking at how much money I had in it, because every time I did, it made me feel bad. So I would just choose not to look at it. But that's being ignorant in a way. You have to know the money you make. You should know where you're spending it, and you should know how much money you owe. And once you actually look at your credit card debt and face it, that's when you can actually make a plan for yourself. So if you, for example, owe $4,000 in credit card debt, then you could actually sit there and look at the numbers. How long is it going to take you to pay it off? If you do the minimum monthly payment, then you can look at, okay, if I add an extra $75 a month, how much quicker can I pay this off? Okay, what if I do an extra $200 a month? If you've cut out all these subscriptions, all this unnecessary spending on the weekends, all this unnecessary spending at the grocery store, I would bet that any one of you watching this video can probably save an extra $300. So if you can put an extra $300 a month towards your credit card debt, how much faster will it get paid off? And then once you have that plan, it's easier to execute it. And if you want to accelerate it even more, step 5, I got you, is to see if you can get a second job. I know that's not ideal for everyone. I know not everyone wants to spend their free time working, but it's all about just looking at it from an objective perspective and just reminding yourself this is temporary. Would you rather sacrifice an extra 10 hours a week working a second job to pay off your credit card debt quicker? Or would you rather be where you're at now, feeling sad, feeling miserable, feeling stuck, feeling fearful because you're check to check, and if something happens, God forbid, you don't know where you would get the money to support yourself through that. So that's the reason why I started working Amazon Flex. I was doing Uber Eats, and even still to this day, I do it, even after my credit card debt has been paid off, because I just like having extra money now that I can allocate towards other things in my life. And that's why I really like jobs like Amazon Flex, Uber Eats, the kind of driving gigs, because it doesn't really feel like you're working. A lot of the times you're just in your car listening to music, going up, picking up the food, whatever, dropping it off at the customer's house. Like, it's a really low key, chill job. But if you don't have a car, maybe you can look into a part time hosting job or a part time barista gig, something like that. Just something that you feel like you can see yourself doing. And it doesn't have to be forever. I mean, even just do the math of what an extra 10 hours a week could do for you. And I'm going to actually do it real quick on my phone. Let's just say even $20 an hour part time. I know it's different for everyone depending on where you're living, but I'm going to just base it off of Colorado, where you could pretty easily get a part-time job for $20 an hour. So if you get something for $20 an hour and you work 10 hours a week, that's $200 in a week, obviously before taxes. And then times 4 weeks for the whole month is $800. Let's just say you pay 25% for tax. So then that ends up being $600, okay? So if you just worked 10 hours a week and you just did that even, let's say, for 6 months, let's times the $600 times 6 months, that's $3,600 though. So wherever you live is going to be different. But what would that extra $3,600 do? If you have more debt than that, okay, maybe you do a year of a part-time job. If you made it a whole year, then that ends up being $7,200. A year is nothing, you guys. A year honestly goes by so fast. And if it means sacrificing 5 hours on Saturday, 5 hours on Sunday, what is that? I mean, that's going to give you so much freedom back into your life, that security and feeling grounded. So if a part-time job is going to help you, only you know if that's what you need to do it. Help yourself. Me working Amazon Flex and Uber Eats last year helped me so much. It just sped up the process so much faster for me. And honestly, it felt good. Like every time I would throw extra payments onto my credit card debt, it was just like this feeling of relief. Like, oh my God, the number's actually smaller and smaller every month. So I honestly recommend a part-time job. I really do. Which brings me into my final tip, the biggest tip of all, and that is to change your living situation. If you're someone who's either living alone or you're living with a roommate, ask yourself if you can size down. Can you get a smaller studio? Can you move back home with family? Can you move in with a friend? But really assess your living situation, because this is our biggest expense. Unless you're someone who's already living rent-free, you need to be paying off your debt if you're already rent-free. But if you're living in a home and you're paying the bills for that home, really ask yourself, how can you limit the amount of money you're spending? Can you get a roommate? If you have a house and you have an extra room in your house, can you compromise a little bit of your space to have someone live with you, even if it is for a year, so that the money they pay you, you could put towards your credit card debt? I think most of us who are adults here who have credit card debt value our privacy and probably don't want to live at home with parents or family. But you got to do what's best for you. I struggled with this so much because I had lived by myself for 3 years. So moving back home to me just felt like I'm going behind. It felt like I'm taking steps back. Like I just don't want to do it. I don't want to be around people. I want to just be in my own space, my own privacy. But I had to swallow my ego and really look at what the numbers were showing me, because even with all the other steps, yes, it was awesome because I started paying things off and I could see my progress. Nothing was going to help me pay off my credit card debt within 9 months, like moving back home. I know not everyone has that as an opportunity that they can take, and that's okay. You don't need to live back home rent-free. What can you do to just minimize your spending on your home though? Because even before I decided to move back home, I was looking at studios. Because before I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment paying $2,000 a month. There are so many apartments in downtown Denver that you can get for like $1,200 if you size down, like a 300 square foot studio. And did I want to live in something that small? Not necessarily, but I was willing to. Because if I could even chop $2,000 a month down to $1,200, that's $800 back in my pocket. So maybe you can do something similar. If you're living in an apartment, maybe you can go into a studio. If you're living alone, maybe you can get a group of friends to split the cost of a house. Because if you've got everybody in a house splitting the bills, that actually might work out better in your favor. Your living situation is going to be the thing that helps you like hijack this process. And it's going to be the quickest thing to help you get from having debt to being debt free, truly. And honestly, this step alone can cut years off of your debt payoff time. And it did for me. Had I moved into a studio out of my 1-bedroom apartment, it probably would have taken me, give or take, like 3-4 years to pay off my credit card debt, which is fine. 3-4 years would have been much better than the 15 years projected payment plan timeline that Wells Fargo was giving me. So I'm definitely grateful that I moved back home and I did it in 9 months. But if I decided to just size down, still would have paid it off quicker. So just know if you don't have family you can live with, it doesn't mean you can't pay off your debt as fast as you can. You can just find a way to minimize what you pay for your housing. And that is my final tip for you guys. I know how exhausting and draining it is having credit card debt. It's literally one of the worst feelings in the world, but you're not alone. And the most important thing is just that you start taking steps towards paying it off. Let us know in the comments if there's a tip that has been really helpful for you with paying off your credit cards. Let's help each other out. Let's be supportive of one another and let's cheer each other on. I love you guys and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.